Unanswered questions. Amazing. No one, though they were asked repeatedly, would say whether they thought Stephen Fry, my friend, was in a state of mortal sin or not. They wouldn't tell you. Something about the question brought out their inner coward. Well, I say that homosexuality is not just a form of sex, it's a form of love, and it deserves our respect for that reason.
Profound nonsense. Gay people are not introduced into societies. No, it's not like somebody introduces the idea of homosexuality and a load of men think, oh, I know, I'll leave my wife for a man. Absolutely profound nonsense. Homosexuals have existed in every culture throughout society, not just because, by the way, it's worth reminding the church leaders of this, not because it's an act of sex, but because it's an act of love. Because it's a basic requirement of human relationships for some people. Now, and as such, deserves respect.
It's also, I think, a bit much to be told that these Al-Qaeda chaps, these killers and sadists and nihilists and producers of indiscriminate explosions, wouldn't be this way if we weren't so mean to them. Now, it's true some of them, Mr. Zarqawi, their leader, of course, the bin Ladenist leader, was in Iraq before, and was well known to have been in Iraq under the rule of Saddam Hussein, and I can tell you that no one gets in and out of Iraq at that level without the president knowing. And it's also true that a group affiliated with him, the Ansar al-Islam, a fundamentalist group, thought that its main job was to kill the Kurdish leadership in northern Iraq, the elected leadership, which is a strange target, I think, for a holy war. And it's also true that some of them came to Iraq after we threw them out of Afghanistan. Well, that's easy then. Leave them in control of Afghanistan. Don't mess around with these people. Don't make them angry. Don't make them mean. It's your fault. Now, this is masochism, but it's being offered to you by sadists. Okay?
I have to speak up once again on the fact that, again, Mr. Glass has said that you, ladies and gentlemen, in the room are propping up or pro-dictator regimes, that you in this room are doing deals with Saudi Arabia. Ladies and gentlemen, the West may have made and has made grotesque errors in propping up dictators in the Middle East, but we also manage not to prop them up. We've also, if you like, we have the antidote to poisons within us. Can that be said of other societies to the same extent? And please note Mr. Dalrymple's use of the word we. It was we when it was people carrying out massacres in the West, in the past, your forebears. It was only we when it's us doing bad things. When is it we expressed by Mr. Dalrymple of pride of what the West has done? That he cannot bring himself to do, and I hope you note it, ladies and gentlemen. This is masochism, and it's being offered to you by a sadist.
Right. Christopher Hitchens is about as far from Jerry Falwell and his beliefs as one could get. Christian fundamentalists are a major target of his new book, God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything. He joins me now from Raleigh, North Carolina. Christopher, I'm not sure if you believe in heaven, but if you do you think Jerry Falwell is in it?
No, and I think it's a pity there isn't a hell for him to go to.
Is there a danger that little children are learning that some of their school friends are, unless they change, are going to go to hell? How dangerous is that, do you think?
Well, it's a wicked thing to do, perverted thing to do, to tell lies to children. I don't believe there's any heaven, and I don't believe there's any hell, although I quite often wish there were a hell for certain people to go to.
Religion is our first, that's why I'm so fascinated with it, it's our first version of the truth. It's our first attempt as a species. It's what we tried when we didn't know anything. We didn't know we lived on a spherical planet. We didn't know that our planet revolved around the sun. We didn't know that there were microorganisms that explained disease. We thought diseases came from curses or witches or ill-wishing or devils or dust devils. We didn't know anything from the childish, terrified, ignorant origins of our animal primate species. Comes religion. It's also our first attempt at philosophy, our first attempt at morality, our first attempt at healthcare, actually, but because it was our first, it is our worst. We now have better explanations for all these dreads, and we have cleared up all of these mysteries, yet we still dwell. And in some countries, in some societies, not just dwell, but live under a totalitarian regime that forbids us to think about the progress that has been made, or denies us the knowledge that these advances have in fact occurred. So it has become, where once it probably was an aid to our survival, a really great peril to our continued ability to live as a civilized species.
Silly atheists who completely dismiss the metaphors and the legends that Christianity and Islam represent are, I think, unwise. They tell some truths. But these are man's first attempts at philosophy. They're man's first attempts to understand the world he lives in. You said yourself, Muhammad and Jesus both refer to things close around them, what the world they knew. To hear people in the 21st century condemning, apart from anything else, other people to live a miserable life this time in the pretense that you're going to get another one is, I think, a great demonstration not just of the irrationality of our time, but the unpleasantness of our time.